Well, welcome everyone. And David, why don't you take the liberty of reading one of these literary wonders?
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Before I begin, I've got to compliment Steve on his background. I think that's wonderful. And
Okay, everybody recognizes what it is, right?
yeah, it's a place that I have visited a number of times, and I love it. And it's so moving to see that, Steve. Thank you. Today's poetry, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, is from the Nepalese poet Deshko Mohan Koirala. The poem is called Deshko Prakava. Twisting its body, night attacks me. Black fountains glistening, it readies itself. Its arms are outstretched. I beat a drum to declare that the world still meditates and is yet to wake from its trance. I picked up a firefly, held it up to the stars. It fears no one. It glows, it dims, and glows of its own accord. Light, oh light, I cried, and the eastern sky reddens. Very soon the light will come on a golden morning. Thank you so much, Marty.
Thank you, David. David selects poetry that, I hate to put it this way, it dovetails into, our reading for the day. We are on a new beginning, and a lot of trials are to befall the Israelites, and we've had a little bit of a few complaints about water, a few complaints about food, and we're going to see more of this as we go through the story. More trials, and then when we finish with the trials, I'm going to ask, why are the trials necessary? We don't have to answer it now, but think about it, and then we will discuss it when all the trials are finished. Okay, so let me open with our prayer. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have sanctified us through your commandments and commanded us to busy ourselves in things of Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, we have the story where we left off. We left off in a discussion of manna, and I'm just going to reiterate some of the lines myself.
Could you tell us again exactly where we are?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Exodus 16,
verse 31
and verse 24.
Oh, you're backing up. Okay.
The Israelites had been told what to do with the manna every day, selecting one loaf of manna, but on the day before Sabbath starts, what we would say a Friday, you would collect 2 loaves of manna. Okay, because on the Sabbath, you did not collect the manna. So in verse 24, they put it aside until morning, as Moses had ordered, and it did not turn foul, and there were no maggots in it. Then Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is a Sabbath of the Lord. You will not find it today on the plain. 6 days you shall gather it, and on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will be none." So if somebody would like to read, picking up on verse 27.
Sure, I'll be happy to start it.
Please.
And it came to pass on the 7th day that there went out some of the people to gather, and they found none.
Okay, let's stop at that point. Any comments, questions? Why is this an important statement? Steve, you're shaking your head. Yeah.
Yeah, well, just sort of the obvious thing is,
Yeah.
they did not abide by what they were specifically told to avoid doing. They were told in no uncertain terms, do not go out and gather on Shabbat. And again, have a little faith and things will be taken care of. And there were some people who decided, nah, I don't think that's going to happen. And they went out to gather.
Okay. Yes, very good. Yes, David.
Actually, there's a little bit more than just the manna here. And I'd like to quote from a little commentary that I was given for my birthday by one of my dearest and closest friends. It's from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Covenant and Conversation. And I will treat it forever. And when I'm done with it, or even as I'm doing it, Wendy wants to read it as well. The symbolism of the Reed Sea does not end just with the sea. It reminds us of the ancient ceremony of covenant making. The key verb of covenant is to cut, and an animal or several animals were divided, and the parties to the covenant stood or sat between them. The divisions of things normally united or as a whole stood as a symbol of the unification of entities, persons, tribes, nations, previously divided. This is just a sample of this beautiful, beautiful writing from Rabbi Sachs. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Does this part of the story, the new beginning, if you will, does that remind you of another story where some people don't follow the rules that God tells them to follow? And it also deals with something you eat. A parallel story is the Garden of Eden. What are the first man and woman told not to do?
Eat from the tree of knowledge.
There you go. Why is that? What is a little bit more to it? It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay, so we are now being told as Israelites, the masses, do not eat the manna on a certain day. Don't go out. I did not eat, but to look for it on a certain day. So have we learned anything since Adam and Eve? No, some of the Israelites went out on the Sabbath to look for manna. Okay, and so this opens up a little more discussion, and we'll come to it. You think about this. We'll come to it shortly. Why is man like this? Yes, David.
This is a Wendy hand.
It's me.
Yes,
the people, the rest of the Israelites that are supposed to be listening to Moses are like children. As soon as you tell a child, don't do this because you won't, they have to test the theory and go, oh, he was right. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, this is part of the human condition. And whether we like it or not, we can't escape that. We are taught certain things, but we always have to find out for ourselves if it's true. And we always question, and that's human nature. Yes, Ricky.
One of my personal parables. Learn from the mistakes of others. You don't have time to make them all yourself.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a very good response. I think there's a lot of meat for thought. We'll get into this as the in the rest of this little paragraph. Yes, Don.
What calendar do you think was being used at this time to calculate the Sabbath day? Was it lunar, solar? Who was doing the calendar?
Okay, just a second. What did Ricky answer?
Strictly lunar.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't change anything for.
Some people have said that this was a battle between the sun god of the Egyptians and the lunar god of the Israelites. I mean, I don't necessarily say what's right or wrong, but that has been expressed. And tremendous theses have been written on that, discussing that. Yes, Suzanne.
You may or may not agree with this, but one of the ancient language scholars that I follow has done a lot of work with translating the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Hebrew lunar calendar that was not in effect at this time. It was the Hebrew solar calendar, which had nothing to do with Egypt. It was a different calendar, solar calendar that God gave them. And it was, well, I call them the evil, nasty Pharisees. They were the ones that changed everything over to the lunar. And that was much later. In fact, and again, this is according to the Essenes and translating things that have been written in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Not only did they change it to the lunar calendar, but they also changed the timing. So in the year, our calendar year 2025 will be equivalent to the Hebrew year of, let me get this right, 6,950. In other words, according to the Essenes, we'll be entering into the last Jubilee by our calendar year 2025. And Dr. Ken Johnson has written a book about this. And he also has given many talks, and it's available on his website, which is biblefacts.org, if anyone cares to listen to what he has to say. And that's it.
Okay. I think that there are going to be discrepancies. Yes, Michael.
Well, going back, if I can go back a little bit, based on what we're saying, it's about respecting the word of God. Going back before Suzanne was talking about the calendar. And about gathering and not eating the manna, and some decided to eat, and the Israelites already saw the power of God, and they should have known the power of God when they had left Egypt, and so this would remind me that the respect for God is very necessary.
Okay. I'm going to try to see if I can find an answer to this. because there are different sites. Yes, Don, you go ahead and contribute. Michael, you were very correct in what you said. Yes.
Thank you.
But the reason I asked, Marty, is because obviously the Sabbath is super critical. But God, as far as I can see, God has not yet issued instructions to either Moses or Aaron or any of the priests as to who's going to keep track of the days, because they're out in the middle of the desert. There's nothing to distinguish one day from another. I mean, the garbage collectors don't come on Monday, so there needs to be. It seems to me that somebody should have been charged with the task of calendar keeping, but nobody. I've kind of scoured the text, and nobody was. They just seem to be. They have to know which was the Sabbath day, and nobody. I could just see a fist fight starting between Moses and Aaron. Today's Friday. No, it's Saturday. So I'm just wondering if there's anything in the text somewhere which gives responsibility to someone to look after that.
Okay. Yes, Steve. Steve, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, I just unmuted myself. Yeah, I would have to go back to the rabbinical saying that's often been quoted here, "Ein mukdam ve'en muchar b'Torah." And what that means is there's no early and there's no late in the Torah, or the Torah is not actually written chronologically. And the rabbis even recognize this. So you will find some anachronisms. You will find from time to time, not to be too cynical about it, not to dismiss the question, but there are things that don't exactly fit and obviously were written much later, because the terminology that's used is a later terminology that was not customary at that time. Supposedly the time of the Exodus. It's much, much later.
But at least it's absolutely critical that every 7 days is marked off somewhere.
But this is sort of just, I acknowledge that, but this is part of the quote unquote, and it's not a dismissive or disrespectful term, the mythology of our people. This is a story that was generated and put to text much later. And some things really fit as if they were written at the time, and there was somebody, there was a camp historian who was keeping notes and everything got written down as it was happening, but actually that probably didn't exactly happen. It was all summarized much, much later.
But Steve, that you're talking about
Shabbat. Yeah, I understand they're talking about the Shabbat.
I'm talking about people getting punished for not observing the Sabbath and just wondering who's keeping track.
Yeah, it's part of the story. Doesn't exactly fit. It's part of the story because they didn't exactly go into that detail.
Steve is correct. Steve is very correct with regard to this. There are different and as a result, there are many different interpretations. There's another factor that most people forget. The calendar we use today was not in existence then. And the calendars, plural, that were used were numerous. And so they could easily mark off 7 days and celebrate a Sabbath, but the formal lunar calendar, according to what I was looking up, was formulated during the Common Era, the early Common Era. There's a wide span of years that it entails, so there are different opinions here. But prior to that, as Steve was pointing out, before everything was written down in Torah the way we read it today, which was also formulated around this same time, was originally in 7 different Aramaic languages. And before that was Proto-Hebrew. And before that was the oral tradition. And so when we look at all of these, we come up with different interpretations. So far, there is no one way that covers it all. And so people will feel what suits them best. That's all you can say.
Marty, you're going all over the map. I have a very specific question. Who did God charge to keep track of the Sabbath? Where can I find that?
You can't.
So it's not, so there's nobody, Aaron, the Levites, nobody was charged with keeping track.
We make the assumption. We make the assumption.
Okay.
Okay.
So
that's all we can do.
So God says, I'm punishing you because you didn't keep track of the Sabbath, but I'm not going to give that responsibility to anybody.
Or give it to everybody.
But maybe everyone was also instructed in that, which we have been told. So it's your responsibility as an individual, to also know it's 7 days for a day of rest.
Okay, I'm leaving it.
You don't need a town crier, in other words. You have, it may have been a town crier, but everyone is told every 7 days. That's what it says in the text here. Now, maybe it wasn't. Maybe some people really had to keep track of the time. But it's a detail that is not the important part of the story. It may be important to certain individuals, but it is not, it's not the most critical aspect of the entire story, the lessons to be learned. Okay. And as Steve pointed out, this section has elements in it when people much smarter than we are take a look at the writings. They say, oh, wait a minute, this verse may have been written at a much later date and inserted in the final edition. There are extra books that may have been eliminated in the final version. Okay, we'll come across that later on in the book of Numbers, and then we can have that discussion then. But so knowing that, all of that, and as Steve pointed out, that past, present, and future is not really essential to have an exact timeline here. It's more important to understand, and that's why some people say what is written pertains to the past, the present, and the future. Okay, and it involves that. And the people who live today were at Sinai, or should at least know about Sinai. Okay, so there are lots of midrash and a lot of ideas that have been tossed out. And so when we want to detail a calendar, all we can say is, as Steve pointed out, there are several different things. And the reason I mention this, if anyone has ever gone to the museum at the Vatican, you will see a collection of 50 different calendars. And we really don't know what year this is. We don't know if it's year 6,000. We do not know if it's the current calendar year as we measure it. Because
10,900,000,000 and so trillion.
That's right. So knowing this, there's no way you can adequately have your question answered. It's
That's
a,
not my question, though. My question is not about calendars. It's that God is insistent that the Hebrews observe the Sabbath every 7 days. And my question is, who's keeping track of that? And it's so
not
important.
mentioned.
It's absolutely critical. There's nothing more critical than what we're reading right here.
That's right. It's not mentioned in Torah. It's every 7 days. And that leaves it open-ended. So if you were living in a different time period, when time was measured by the life of a king or queen, and then it would change, but every 7 days you would have a Sabbath.
But the sun comes up every morning. And so you start with 1 and you count to 7.
Yeah.
Start with 1 and count to 7. So it doesn't need all kings and queens and different calendars. It just needs somebody responsible for 5 fingers on one hand and 2 fingers on the other. And I'm just wondering who's doing that?
We do not know for sure because it has not been mentioned. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay.
The Tucson Police Department handles that.
I'm sorry, what, David, I missed that.
I just said the Tucson Police Department handles that.
But anyway, getting back on track. So you read verse 27. So if you read verse 28 through 30. Go ahead, David.
Okay, here we are, 27 to 30. We're getting there. And it came to pass that on the 7th day at the police department, that there went out some of the people together, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, for to bear Adonai Moshe more, how long refuse me ye to keep my commandments and my laws? Do you want me to continue, Marty?
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. What is your opinion about this question?
Well, it strikes me that God is actually not only is he wanting everyone to observe the Sabbath, but he's rather annoyed that his people can't figure it out. You can't count from 1 to 7. And it reminds me of a story that I really love when I was in Israel. It was right after a Sabbath. And there was a group of kids dancing around. And someone came up and said, what are you dancing around for? I mean, Sabbath is over. And they said, because we have only 6 days left before it's Sabbath again, and we can celebrate again. And that was something I've never forgotten.
That's cool. Now, why is it measured in day and not weeks or months? Or months, let's put it that way.
Well, it is something that's done on a weekly basis. And so in order to count it, you've got to do it in the terms of days. And to do that, you just look at the sunrise, the sunset, the night sky, and you just count up till 7.
Right.
And the Sabbath. I think that's why it has to be counted in days.
Okay. Yes, Ricky. Ricky and Helene. I didn't know who had the hand up first.
Real fast. We have 7 orifices in our head. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. I don't know if that means anything because 1 hand plus an extra 2 doesn't make any sense. You know, there's got to be something about something that makes 7 other than the first chapter of Genesis.
Okay.
So anyway.
Good point. Interesting point. Yes, Helene.
Listening to all of this over and over, I know that the words and everything can be analyzed and is analyzed, but the gut of all of this is God's will. What does God want and why does he want it? We'll never know. But if we don't respect, someone said, if we don't respect God's will, nothing is going to work forever. And there'll be interpretations always.
Right.
Go back to what God wants and do it. And that's what those children were talking about. Those children believed that the Sabbath is a joy,
Yes.
joy. And guess what? I guess it is for some
Mhm.
people. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Helene. That was very important. Yes, Michael.
Yes, to follow up what Ricky was saying, at the number 7 does have a great importance in Judaism. At the very end, at the end of Yom Kippur, Adonai U Elohim is said 7 times. 7 times. And if you take a look at it where it's being said, it's at the end of the Day of Atonement. See? So that's pretty powerful in my opinion.
Michael was that was very interesting what Michael said, because there are some who have written that we have that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are also considered Sabbaths.
Not only that, but there are actually some, Marty, some that say the Shabbat is even more important than Yom Kippur. I don't really subscribe to that, but there are some that say that.
Yes. Yes. Very well put. Very well put. So what about the verse 29, let everyone remain where he is, let no man leave his place on the 7th day. Okay, that has been interpreted throughout the ages as a day of rest. Okay. So who knows what exact words were used, Don? There's no way to know, but it was mentioned. And then verse 30.
So the
people remained inactive on the 7th day. So that all has been interpreted as a day of rest, and for all time. Okay, verse 31. Or any other comments before we move on? Okay, who wants to read? Okay, Ricky.
The house of Israel named it manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and it tasted like wafers and honey. Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Let 1 omer of it be kept throughout the ages, in order that they may see the bread that I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a jar, put 1 omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout the ages. As the Lord has commanded Moses, Aaron placed it before the pack to be kept. And the Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to a settled land. They ate the manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The omer is 1/10 of an ephah. I wouldn't want to eat the same thing for 40 years, but aside from that, who's keeping that 1 omer? You take a jar, put 1 omer, then place it before the Lord, keep it throughout the ages. I've never heard of anything that represents that.
Well, where did it wind up?
I don't know. If I knew, I wouldn't have asked the question.
Okay, anyone? Yes, Steve.
Well, I have two comments actually, but in response to your question, I don't know for sure. I would guess the temple,
You're
maybe,
getting warmer.
but I don't.
It's the ark.
Oh,
Within the ark.
So it's actually the Holy of Holies is what you're
Yes,
saying.
it is
Right.
considered, it
There's
is
no
in the
actual
Holy
ark.
of Holies. That's right. Okay, so you have in the Holy of Holies, you also have the tablets that they're going to wind up there, and also manna.
Oh, yeah. So
There are other things
Ark
that
of the
will be
Covenant. You're the traveling ark.
Yes,
We're talking about. Yeah.
yes.
Another comment.
Go ahead, Steve. Yes.
If I may. Okay. Just there are theories about what the manna actually was. And some scholars say that it is what the Bedouin and Arabs know as kubeza is the Arabic name. In Hebrew, we called it lechem aravi, or Arab bread. And this is a plant that grows in the wilderness, and it's got a little seed that you can eat. And I remember when I learned botany in Israeli high school, it was mandatory. We took these and we, compressed them and saved them in books and stuff, and we had to eat this little thing, and it really wasn't too special. And I can't see making a meal out of it. It's just a little tiny thing that sort of, I guess it's technically, botanically speaking, it is the fruit of the plant, but of course it doesn't taste fruity. It's more like a little tiny vegetable. So and so that's the theory. Now you're sort of nodding your head, so I guess you found some sort of reference to this as well.
Yes, and also some more information. But you go ahead. You said you had.
No, you tell your information because I'm
okay.
I'm dry now. That's it.
Okay, I found the substance referred to as manna in the past was believed an exudation of the tamarisk itself, but is now known to originate in an excretion of two scale insects that live in symbiosis with the tamarisk.
Well, that's another theory. That's
right. This is another theory on top of what Steve was talking about. A chemical analysis of the excretions has revealed that they contain a mixture of 3 basic sugars with pectin. The plant saps on which these insects feed are rich in carbohydrates, but extremely poor in nitrogen. In order to acquire a minimum amount of nitrogen for their metabolism, the insects must consume great quantities of sap. The excess passes from them in honeydew excretions, which in the dry air of the desert quickly change into drops of sticky solids. So take your pick, but there are a lot of ideas. However, this was enough to sustain, so that in a way, this is, and these are scientific attempts to help explain something that is very mystical, and it is, but maybe it was in the form of loaves. I don't know. Maybe through the ages, it mutated to tiny droplets. I have no way of knowing. But I think that, sorry. Okay, but Suzanne, that's okay. That's okay. As far as, so what was your second question, Steve?
No, that was it. I just wanted to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But botanical theory for what's.
Yeah, so there.
I like yours better because I don't think the little plant seed that I saw was not didn't seem like sustaining nutrition, but
Yeah.
what you're describing, rich in carbohydrates, that might work,
But I'm wondering about the protein. Where's the protein in that? We got the
Pectin.
carbohydrates and the sugars,
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't the body need a little protein? Is that, or is that the insect itself?
No, it's the
Maybe.
pectin.
Yeah.
It's the pectin, but it's okay. However, this opens up another discussion. Is manna something just physical, or is it something spiritual? Or both? So take it away. Any comments?
Well, it has to be both, I would think, because, okay, so they're physically having the manna to ingest, but according to our botanist friend, the seed, right? It was like a white
or it's
seed,
actually
but
the fruit, the fruit
Yeah.
of the plant. Yeah.
and it tasted like honey, right? So it's tastes maybe different, or
So sort of neutral.
that
Or you could imagine it to be anything.
Well, I'm speaking of in the terms of the time that we are in, the Torah. I know we don't keep time or track of time, and it's just neither here nor forward or past. But I wanted to say something a little while ago to help Steve maybe understand. I don't know if it's going to be helpful or not, but if we go back to verse 13, in the evening, quail appeared covered the camp. In the morning, there was a fall of dew about the camp. What time of year does dew occur? Would that give some sense of time? That's my question. Would that provide a time of the year that the fall has, because the dew and where I live can happen any time of year.
Yeah. Well,
You never know what season you're in.
yeah.
Sure. Yes, Steve.
In the rabbinic, tradition, based on much later prayers, in the Amida, we have two alternatives. There's a place where you can select either God who makes the dew, and God who brings the rains. And what you're supposed to do is, so this is trying to answer your question, the rains are presumed to be winter season. The dew is presumed to be the summer season. And that's oversimplifying things into kind of two seasons like you have sometimes in Arizona. Actually, Arizona only has one season, but I guess, in Israel and the Middle East, sometimes there's pretty much just two recognizable seasons. So I hope that kind of answers the question. And in response to your question, Marty, what is the manna exactly? Of course, the rabbis embellished on, there is a lot of discussion about what the manna is. And this, I'm not citing the Talmud myself, I'm just remembering Hebrew school, because you sort of prompt the memory. So I remember what my Hebrew school teacher told me about, what manna was. And I remember them telling us that manna tasted like anything you wanted it to taste like. It was, almost magical, that whatever you had in your head, oh, do you know what? I haven't had hot dogs for a long time. I want the manna to taste like a hot dog. Lo and behold, it tastes like a hot dog with mustard. Okay. So it tastes like whatever you're imagining, whatever is in your head. So it is the ultimately enjoyable meal. And it sort of evolved as that in general literature. Manna is not just K-ration. Manna is considered the ultimate nutrition in every sense. So
Agree. It's been called the food of the gods. It's but now I see some hands up. Let me. Okay. David had his hand up first, and then Ricky.
Okay, with all due respect to Steve, to answer the question directly about the Jew, it comes on Jews Day.
Oh, okay. Go ahead,
I
Ricky.
wasn't going there, but I moved to Green Valley in December of 2018, and I had a pods. And because you got to give the guy back his box, the pods, everything was taken out. And in December, the first few nights that I still had stuff outside, not sorted, not put away, in the morning, everything was soaked with dew. And so we have it. I mean, I know at least that the fall, early winter, we do get dew here, or maybe it was just terribly unusual that year. But we have dew. I see it because I'm up real early in the morning. I mean, I don't see it this time of year because the humidity is so low. But dew, I don't see it as a summer occurrence, as you were saying, Marty. You know, rain in the summer and dew.
Okay. Actually, Steve, but that's okay.
Because the humidity is just much too low in the summer months until you get into monsoon season. And
Right.
I don't know. Does the Sinai have a monsoon season? I don't know. So anyway, that was just it about dew is a strange thing. And it's not year round here.
Now, there have been, they have, throughout the ages, the Kabbalists have looked at it, and I mentioned this before, divine flow, when coming in rain, or the water in the wells, the flow of water being a divine action. And with it carries sustenance. Well, water does sustain life. We need it, plants need it, etc. So these passages bring to mind some of the Kabbalistic interpretations of this as well, that make this a much more spiritual event. Okay, and that it is information, divine information, that is being imparted here. Well, that's part of the story. And the symbolism of this is, that this is a tremendous gift that is being bestowed upon the Jewish people, the Israelites. So it's, I'm sort of shortening some of those discussions, but this portion has been very important. What about the wafer? Oh, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I'm thinking, this is a mysterious substance that can feed over 1 million people every single day. So I don't know whether it's profitable to speculate on exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there it is. Go pick it up, eat it, enjoy, and don't ask any more questions.
Yeah. By the way, this goes all the way back in history, to some of the prophets and like that addressed it. Ezra suggests that manna in its raw state resembled coriander, and in its boiled state, bdellium. Okay, some of these, like bdellium, we do not really know what that was. It sort of disappeared. From now, maybe something else is called that was called bdellium is now called something else. I'm not sure. But then just a word about the phrase "the pact." Ha'edut. Did I pronounce that correctly, Steve?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a synonym also for the Berit, the covenant, of which the tablets of the Ten Commandments will be the visible symbol. Okay, and that is an interpretation by Rabbi Plow. But it's a very but these are important implications in what we're reading. We're revisiting a lot of the things that we were told, and the Brit Milah is related to this as well. And so as we go through all of these traditional stories from the book of Genesis, we're now seeing a repetition of these of these stories that we read 4 years ago, 3 or so. So it's something to just recall and just keep aware. But the spiritual aspect of it has also been discussed by many, many people. Any other ideas or comments about this? There are other commentaries, but we can move on. Just a word about wafers, by the way. You know, some said it was like little wafers and like that. Anything that you may know of in another religion that comes?
Of course.
That what?
I said, of course. I mean, I was thinking.
Which? Yeah, go ahead. Communion.
The wafer when you
Yes.
get, when you go up for.
Yes, and it just miraculously dissolves. Right. So it's all stemming from these stories that we're reading. Any other comments? Well, we're going to, if you will, march on. Exodus 17, verse 1. Any?
Oh, I thought we were at 16 verse 30.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, is Ricky wanting to read that now?
Well,
The golden
Go
voice?
ahead.
I thought you finished didn't we do, I thought I read the Omer as a tenth of an ephah. So I've read all the way.
Yes,
through.
yes, she did read it all.
Yeah.
I was just trying to find the page. So
Yes,
we are ready,
17:1, yes.
ready for verse 1.
Okay.
Exodus
From the
17.
wilderness of sin, the whole Israelite community continued by stages as the Lord would command. They encamped at Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Oh, the people quarreled again. The people quarreled with Moses. Give us water to drink, they said. And Moses replied to them, why do you quarrel with me? Why do
Are
you try
you
to
Ricky?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. There was a slightly different words from my text. I apologize. Okay.
So why do you quarrel with me? Why do you try the Lord? But the people thirsted there for water, and the people grumbled against Moses and said, why did you bring us up from Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?
Okay, let's stop at this point. Discussion.
Bitch.
These are unhappy troopers,
Yeah, sure.
always finding something to complain about. Okay. Any comments about this? Well, the lack of, yes, Suzanne, go ahead, please, you first.
I can sympathize with them. I mean, we ourselves live in a desert, and if we didn't have water to drink, I think that would make anybody pretty crabby and upset.
Okay.
I mean, I know that the Israelites complain a lot throughout this journey. And a lot of times it just seems like whining to me. But in the case of not having water to drink, I can understand their concerns and fears. Maybe they could have gone about their complaints in a different manner. But I do understand how they could feel upset.
Okay. And I think that's very true. Any other comments? Why is it important to include livestock in this? It's not just the people, but their livestock. And the people are concerned. Yes, David, is that another Wendy hand?
Yeah, this is going back to the people getting angry at Moses because they wanted water or they didn't know what to do with the manna. I think they didn't realize when they left Egypt that they were going to be on a 40-year journey. And they thought, just like another child, they're going to get there quick and the land will be there waiting for them and they don't need to do anything else. It'll be there. And it wasn't yet. So, yeah.
It wasn't a non-stop.
It was
It's a
not.
good point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So where do you go from? Yes, Don.
Also, I'd comment, if I may, that this is in a string of the same literary device where the
Good point.
the Israelites are tested. You know, they need something that's vital to them. They lose faith, and then God says, "Why don't you have faith in me?" And then He comes through with what they need. And so this is like, I think, the third instance of that.
Okay. Many of us have experienced these types of lifetime events. And again, these are some, when we think about when there's a book, it's called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And there are a series of emotions that the individual has to go through. Why me? Why am I? What are you doing to me? It's in the text here, but they're going to have to eventually come to understand and be, educated in acceptance and understand what is going on. And each person will come to this in his or her time, because of individual makeup. So it is, we've mentioned this before. Is this a book of parenting? Is this a book of psychology or sociology? It covers a lot of different subject material. Did Freud get some of his basic concepts of, they need, the basic drives, what are they? There's food, there's water, and he includes sex. Well, maybe he's right, but these are necessary things for the human experience to exist. Yes, Steve.
Yep. I think you had touched on before, you were wording the question slightly differently. You said, what purpose do these challenges serve?
Yes, we'll do that at the, yeah.
And what purpose do they serve? That's a very specific philosophical school. So that which presumes that things have a purpose, okay? And I guess my instinct with this question is, and I think that's also the rabbi who wrote When Bad Things
happen to good people.
That this is, it's not always, it doesn't feel that good or that true when you tell people God is testing you, or you must have done something wrong, or if it's a death of a loved one, to tell them, well, he's in a better place now. It just doesn't feel right.
Doesn't help.
It's not reassuring. I think the lesson that I carry with me is that life is more about bumps than a smooth road, and life is more about failures than successes. If you read memoirs of people who have been huge successes, the vast majority of them write a whole lot about their failures that,
Yes.
just handed to them on a silver platter. They went through a lot. So I think the emphasis on all the bumps here and all the complaining is just to point out to you that this is what life is about. You stay the course, and you weather the bumps, because unfortunately, that's generally the way things go for most of us.
Good point. Excellent point. Excellent point. Yes, Ricky.
All right, the psychologist is coming out. Actually, my BA is in psychology, but you were talking about what do people need? What are the basic needs? Food, water, and Freud brought in sex, and some people added new experiences and respect and all this kind of thing. And I only once in all my years, ever heard anybody say that there's one other basic need that humans have, and it's not in the Torah either. And we have a need to evacuate. We've got to go to the bathroom or nothing works. An absolute need.
That's very true.
Yeah, I mean, only one time I heard that and I went, but of course,
Actually, that's in the prayer that we say
Every morning.
because the prayer specifically says, if anything stopped up, we're in trouble.
That's right.
I know
We
there's
are
that
built
prayer.
of vessels and tubes, and
Yes.
everything gets blocked.
Yeah, and that's what they addressed. That's
Yeah, but
very
the thing
true,
is,
Steve.
where is that in the Torah? I mean, did they, where are their outhouses while they're traipsing? Or did they dig, holes and bury? Or, what did they do with all of their waste material? We never hear anything about that.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Latrine, no.
As a matter of fact, in most books, that's at movies,
Yeah, nobody goes to the
plays,
bathroom.
nobody goes to the bathroom.
Yeah, I know, it cracks me up.
It's a taboo subject.
Yeah, and women don't have their period in the movies either. They're on a desert island or whatever, months and months and months. There's these basic bodily functions that we Jews acknowledge, and some of us people acknowledge. But, anyway, you talk about shared experience. Those are shared experiences that are not in the movies.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, Steve, please.
Yep. And actually, I just wanted to add that the in Yiddish, toilet paper is asher yotzer papir, or something like that, which means that asher yotzer is that bracha. And so it's the paper of asher. So it's the paper referencing that that blessing that we're mentioning, that
right.
God has created us miraculously with tubes and vessels, and if anything stopped up,
That's right.
it wouldn't work.
So it's important information. This is very important.
Unless you
I know
use
we still have more trials and testing. Yes, David.
Just saying, unless you use a bidet, and then you forget the paper altogether.
Well, I remember when traveling in Europe a lot of years ago, it was newspaper. Probably still is in many places.
In the Israeli army, it is.
Yeah, not surprised.
In latrine.
That's true. Ricky, would you, or David, either one, doesn't matter. if you would start with verse 5.
Okay, I'll do verse
No,
5.
no, 4. We didn't do 4.
Oh, we didn't do
Four.
4. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, 4. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They are almost ready to stone me. And the Lord said unto Moses, pass on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod, and wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thy hand, and go, behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in sight of the elders of Israel.
Okay. Any comments? Okay. Yes, somebody was about to say something. Well, is this God's only answer about water? You know, having Moses strike a rock. I mean, we can come up with many different ideas scientifically to explain some of these events. But any other comments?
Oh.
Yes, Suzanne.
The cod, I can't think of the husband's name. Penny and her husband, their last name is Caldwell. They took a picture of this rock,
Okay.
and it is really something to be seen. And I just, find that, interesting. Of course, they took pictures of other things that were mentioned in this journey at great personal risk to them.
Yes, I think I've seen that video that at this site in Saudi Arabia. Was that the
Right.
one you're referring
Right.
to? Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it's Saudi Arabia now. It
Yes.
wasn't back then, but if I can find it, I'll post it. I mean, if
Okay.
I can find the picture.
Okay.
It's really stunning.
So, any other comments? And when you saw, if you were somebody doing all of this, Moses was told what to do, but did the people hear what hear the same conversation of God to Moses? Or is this, what would you think if you were in that tribe? Would you think it was Moses doing this or God? Try to put yourselves in the shoes of the Israelites for a second. Well, the pitfall here is that some people are going to believe that Moses is doing this, that it's not God, because there's no mention about Moses telling the people, God told me to do this. And this will become a pitfall later. Okay. Yes, Don, please.
We have an awful lot of history here, though, of God performing miracles in a time of need. So it doesn't seem like there would be any dispute as to who is responsible for
Okay.
this.
All right. Good point. Good point. Any other comments? Well, let's read on verse 7. Somebody would want to pick up on there.
Okay, the golden voice of is now going to read. If she's here. Okay, I'll read.
Okay.
I don't have the golden voice, but I will read.
Okay.
and
Verse 7.
verse 7. Thank you. And the name of the place was called Massa and Meribah, because of the striving of the children of Israel, and because they tried the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? And they went to the Supreme Court. And then came Amalek and fought with Israel to Rephidim.
Okay, let's stop at that point, David.
I'm
Let's
very
go back
confused about these place names.
Okay. Steve, you have a probably something about the root words for the names Massa and
I was
Meribah.
just about to look it up. It might take me a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you Merivah is a pretty familiar word. Riv in modern Hebrew is having a fight with somebody
Yeah.
or a dispute. Okay.
Yeah, quarrel.
So that's a very familiar word. Masa, I'm not too sure about the origin of that, so I'll have to actually look it up rather than guess. I could venture a few guesses, but I don't want to guess. I want to just find it, see what it is. So
Okay.
I'll take.
I won't steal your thunder on that. I will talk about another instance or variant account of water being brought forth from the rock at Meribah is described in Numbers, and we will come to that in due time, a couple of years from now, probably. So remember this. The names Massa and Meribah are here represented as arising out of the incidents described. But it is also possible that the stories were told to explain the etymology of the names of the places. So, Meribah, Steve mentioned quarrel, and Massa. Do you have it, Steve?
You go ahead. It'll take me.
Okay.
Go ahead and say what you've got there.
Meaning trial from the root. Is it Nissa?
Good. Just a minute then.
It's
Let me find it here.
or
Some
Nima.
I can tell you mas is a tax or a levy.
Okay.
Oppressive in that sense.
It's Nun, Mem, and Hey.
Nun, mem.
I think it is. Is it Nun, Mem, and Hey?
Nun, mem, hey, nama. Yeah, not sure about that. Nun, samach.
Anyway, that's what Rabbi Plout talks about, that Massa meaning a trial from the root word. And I have to rely on Steve's expertise. So this is basically, and we've come across this before, where names represented events that occurred at those sites. So this is nothing new. And so then we, all of a sudden, as David was mentioning, Amalek suddenly comes on the scene. Ricky, oh, she's not there. I was going to ask her where Amalek comes from and the Amalekites, and fought with Israel at Rephidim. So, did you find that, Steve?
The only, I didn't find your reference. The only thing I could find for Massa was like forced laborers and something sort of oppressive, you know, so.
Okay. Okay, well, that's where
Yeah.
I guess they extended to trial. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Thank you. So now the Amalekites come on the scene. So slap Ricky and wake her up. Well, because she has her tree, her family tree there. But anyway, we'll wait for her to come on the scene. And so, David, why don't you go ahead with verse 9?
And here we go. They keep on changing the order. Okay, 9. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us our men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and so that he sat thereon. And Aaron and Hur stayed up his hands, the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword.
Okay, any comments about this? Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, just the obvious thing that the symbolism of Moses raising his hands and the children of Israel prevailing as long as his hands were held up. That's clearly showing that, faith and allegiance to God is married to success.
Maybe we need all now to stand up and hold up our hands so that Ukraine will succeed.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, and of course, Amalek over time in our literature or the folklore has turned into any anti-Semite.
Yes.
Hitler was an Amalek, quote unquote. You'll hear Jews saying things like that. So was Nasser. So
okay. Yes. As we go through these. Now, the Amalekites, Amalek, in the family tree, where does he fit in?
Oh,
it's not a direct line of the family tree as we describe it. It's a sidebar, if you will, a branch that leads to another group of people. Esau is his grandfather. Okay, the Amalekites are derived from the lineage of Esau. We read that before when we were discussing what happened to Esau. So when we run into this, there is midrash about this. Okay, and the midrash relates this type of event. Some of you who were in Torah study years ago heard Irene mention this, but she didn't attribute it to that it's midrash. That it's a story based on this fact that it is an attempted retribution of the incident of the birth of Esau and Jacob. That Jacob is second born and is holding on to the heel of Esau, and it's retribution for stealing the birthright. Okay, that's how it goes. And the Midrash continues to say that the Amalekites always hit the Israelites from the rear. Okay, but that's Midrash. Okay, it's not in Torah, but it is interesting. Well, what about as was mentioned already? Why is this important? Holding up the arm with the staff and the people who come to support it. Any comments about that? Must represent something very important if it's in Torah.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a symbolic gesture towards God, which
Yes.
he doesn't exactly reside above, he resides everywhere, but it's symbolically beseeching him, approaching him for assistance.
Yes. And but also, what about the people who are supporting that arm? Any ideas arise from that? I don't know. Yes, Suzanne. I didn't know if you were fighting the tail or if you had a comment.
I am fighting my cat. Oh, she's a pain in the butt.
No pun intended.
No.
She wants attention.
Oh, I know, it's terrible. But I wanted to comment that I think this shows the importance of teamwork and
Yes.
working for a goal that benefits everyone and to stick together.
Okay, that's an excellent point.
And I
So
think the cat agrees.
Yeah, she finally left. Oh, she's so spoiled.
so it's attention getting. I once had to write a paper, and we were in New Mexico while I was doing this work, and the owner of this place had a cat, and the cat jumps up on the table, sees where I'm writing, and puts its paw down exactly where I'm trying to read and write. It was very interesting.
I don't know, they all do that.
Yeah. Well, when they want attention, they just want to know you recognize them, that here they are, and then they move on. But anyway, so here we have more important, we have very important people. It talks about Moses, Aaron, and Hur. Aaron and Hur are helping to support his arm. Okay. This gesture, you said teamwork, but teamwork for what? What is the purpose of that teamwork? The verse before talks about that. What is Moses holding? It's called the rod of God.
Yeah.
Right? And by holding it up, it's yes, it is a symbolic gesture, but what is it invoking?
God.
To help them with the fight. Okay, it's symbolic of all of that.
But more than that, I think it's trying to teach the Israelites to be together, fight their enemies and not each other, and not complain about what Moses is doing every 2 seconds.
Okay, well, you're putting it in context. There has to be a point of all of this. Very good, David. What else? Who is Hur? Okay, well, go ahead, Suzanne. You first.
I was just gonna say, it also shows their support of God and his will and their belief in him and following his instructions and so forth.
Good. So who is her? H-U-R.
Oh,
This, yeah.
I'm looking for a girl.
H-E-R. It's H-U-R. Who is this guy or gal? I assume it was a guy.
Ben-Hur's great-great-great-great-grandfather. I don't know.
Well, close. It's some say it was Joshua's father. Okay,
Right, because it's Yoshua ben Hur. Yes,
and that's right.
yes.
And so, thank you for the correction of my Hebrew. Thank you. Yes, David.
Which reminds me of a joke that I've been trying to hold back all day, but I can't. Which person in the scripture has no mother? The answer is Joshua, the son of Nun.
Son of Nun. Yes. Very good. Very good. And now Joshua in verse 10 this is the first mention of Joshua. And he obviously is quite brave and was, I guess one would say he was showing some leadership in his role here. Now, is Joshua fighting on behalf of the Israelites? Or when you put this all together with Moses, Aaron, Hur, and Joshua, are they also fighting for God? Any comments? Or both? But it's because of the symbolic gesture that all of this is lumped together with the symbolic gesture of holding God's staff up. Okay. Yes, Steve.
No, just in response to the previous question, who was Hur, according to the Talmud, as cited by my Perush, which is, what is it? I'm just blanking on it. Hertz, the Hertz Perush, the Hertz commentary. It is the son of Miriam and Caleb. But that's a Talmudic. The rabbis put that in as a reference.
Okay. It could have also been another Hur. Well, anyway, we'll see where this.
That's who they're defining Hur as the son of Miriam.
Okay. It's some very interesting discussion here for Joshua. He is the son of Nun from the tribe of Ephraim. Though this is his first mention in the Torah, his background is not stated at this time. For when the story was told, he was already well known to the hearers. Another passage in Numbers tells us that Moses changed this person's name from Hosea to Joshua, probably after Israel had reached Kadesh, which suggests that the name of Moses' future successor may have been the subject of varying traditions. Joshua served both as a military leader of the people and as Moses' attendant, and he's going to also be the successor of the Jewish people, to lead the Jewish people. Um, so we mentioned the symbolism. Yeah, and according to Plout, Hur is apparently an important personage not mentioned before. According to one tradition, he was Miriam's husband. According to another, her son, Caleb, being her husband. So just to let you know, there are different versions of these stories out there. Any other comments at this point? So I guess, are we at verse 11?
Verse 11. We
Okay.
do not have Ricky's golden voice now. Do you want me to read?
Okay, please.
I don't have the voice that she does, but I'll do my best. And it came to pass when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. No, this is a little further. It's actually 14. And the Lord said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in the book and get it edited and published and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua. For I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. And so Moses built an altar and called the name of it Adonai Nissi. And he said, the hand upon the throne of the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. And while I still have the floor at this point, I'd like to add that my favorite rabbi with my namesake, Rabbi Levi Ben Gerson, he wrote something called The Wars of the Lord, and I think this is one of them. And
Yes.
if I can find any of the poetry he wrote, I'd give a year's retirement to see it. Thank you. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comment? Yes, Don.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You okay, Marty?
Yeah. I get a spasm in my pharynx from time to time, and going through one of those episodes.
It only happens when I'm going to say something.
No. Please go ahead, Don.
But I want to say, and I say this from my heart because this chapter has always bothered me deeply, because what I'm reading here, and I need some help with this, is that what I'm reading is the introduction of genocide on the part of the Israelites, that there is a genetic tribe that God and Israelites swear to wipe out completely from history. And then that continues on down through the Torah. And it seems to me it's also, since the Amalekites descended from Esau, that it's at the permanent root of the problem between the Jews and Islam, because Islam traces their heritage back to Esau. So I find this point in the Torah very disturbing, first of all, because to me it is genocide. You know, we're going to take this people with this genetic code and destroy them completely. So I need some help with that. If somebody would please step in.
All right. I wish the rabbis were here, because I think they would be able to give you a better answer. I really think that, you know, it's fairly specific here that with this particular fight, the Jews have been attacked, the Israelites have been attacked, and they have won the battle. with the help of God. That was what I read into this. I don't know what other people have read into it, because there obviously are going to be, there are survivors because the Amalekites live on. They're going to pose problems for the Israelites in the future. And God does have another role to play and helps them defeat the Amalekites. Some of that comes up in the, I think it comes up in the Purim spiel. It's mentioned by King Ahasuerus or something like that, when he hears about the Israelites and like that being so powerful.
Yeah, but we're still looking at
Yeah.
an oath to destroy a people. And I just have great problem with that. So maybe when the rabbis come back.
I was led to say something else, but I want to give Suzanne a chance first.
Okay, my response to this is a little bit different. And I want to say this is not necessarily a Christian view. It's, to me, a scriptural view. But what we have here is an indication of spiritual warfare. And I've made comments on spiritual warfare before, and I'll say it again. These people are Rephaim, which the best way I can describe them is like Nephilim 2.0. And they are not human. They are kind of like a half-breed kind of being, and not of God's creation. And this all stems back in Genesis when the fallen angels try to destroy the genetic code of God's creation. So when I was a child, I used to think that God was a big meanie, and that kind of stuck with me for many years. And it was probably one of the reasons why I walked away from the church and God and all that. But after, studying scripture and so forth, and listening to people's different opinions and so forth, I've come to understand that the killing of the Rephaim is a just thing, that they were there to harm God, to harm God's creation, to eliminate the Jewish people. So I don't see this as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing, because this is all, the Rephaim are all part of the evil that's going on in the world today. And well, anyways, I could go on, but I won't. I don't want to take any more time.
Okay, thank you. Don, I just want to add that your question has been raised throughout the ages. It's nothing, it's not new, and it's hard to reconcile some of the questions that people have raised. Jerry Bellinker always has the same questioning, okay, as you do, for the same reason, because it doesn't fit into our modern sense of ethical, or I should say moral behavior. Okay. And so, but back then, it was acceptable in the historical sense. One other statement, then I'll let you go on. There have been times when our God has been called a vengeful God by God himself, because I am, the quotation would be, because I am a vengeful God. And also there are other terms that come up. So when we think about it, that even God, excuse me, even God recognizes this part of his character. That's all I can say, but go ahead. You have the floor.
And I don't want to dwell on this because there's lots more to cover, but, I think of this when extremists talk about wiping out the Jews, getting rid of the Jews permanently. That's exactly what we're reading here. That's what I find so disturbing, because how do we defend against such extremists? Because here it is in the Torah with the Amalekites. So, as I said, I don't want to harp on this any more than necessary, but it is something that really bothers me. And to Susan's point, to declare that the Amalekites were not human, then we have to say that Esau was not human, even though he was born from the same womb.
Yeah, it does open other ideas, and it sort of diminishes their humanity, if you will, by saying they are the other, or more alien than the others. I don't know.
Anyway, I thank you for indulging that, but it's something that
it's a worthwhile question. It's a worthwhile question. Now, Michael, was your hand up?
Yeah, I was interested in one thing. This is just interesting to me. I don't want to make a big thing about it, but if I could ask you a question, Marty.
Sure.
When you were about to say, and when you were speaking a few moments ago, you were going to say ethical, but then you went to moral. You know what I'm talking about?
It was ethical. And I decided to use the word moral instead.
Right. I was curious about that.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. David.
I just wanted to make the point. I was listening very carefully to what Don was saying earlier, and it brought me to this famous line that from Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, that history is a record of the vices and follies of humanity. And even historians fail to learn from history. This is history that goes all the way back to Exodus. And what have we learned? Have we learned nothing? Did we just read and bow and go on with our lives as if nothing had happened? And my question is, when will we learn? I think Don has come up with a wonderful
question. That's right.
It needed to be asked.
It does. That's why, yeah. I apologize. Anyway, I think it's so important what the two of you are saying, because of the fact, I think we've come a long way, but we still have a much longer way to go before we can understand ourselves. We're going to have to understand our own nature before we can even understand the nature of God. And this is part of human nature. unfortunately. Yes, Don, go ahead.
Just to lighten it up a bit, I remember what the great historian Arnold Toynbee said about history. He said, history is just one damn thing after another.
Oh, by the way, for those of you who want more information on the split rock at Horeb, Suzanne has added that. Okay.
Yeah, it's a photo of that split rock. It's just a picture.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion up to this point? Well,
Marty,
yes.
I wanted to mention something. I'm sorry if I missed it, but
No, go ahead.
is this the first time that God asked Moses to document?
What do you mean by that?
To write it, you know, in verse 14, then the Lord said to Moses, inscribe this in a document as a reminder.
Oh, yes. It's an interesting comment. And it's so obviously, whether it was on papyrus or it was in some way, he didn't want the people to forget. And I think that this is part of the reason maybe he wants us to understand that we have the ability to challenge. It starts all the way back at the story of Abraham. We do not, you know, Abraham is arguing on the part of the people. Well, do we ever have to come to a realization that it's reasonable, that reasonable to expect that we have the capability of discussing these same issues with God? Is he waiting for us to come up with this realization? I'm just adding that as another layer for discussion, if, you know, that's all. But there are a lot of different ramifications to Don's question. And is war a lesson?
War would be war can be considered a lesson.
Yeah. In what way, Michael?
Well, to teach people to talk out differences. For example, to bring it a little closer to home, the Ukraine situation, where the Putin went into to the Ukraine, and I don't know, I don't know the whole thing, but it's clear to me that Putin wants to reestablish the old Soviet Union, which was Ukraine was part of, and could have done it through diplomatic terms by talking. They needed a lot of different sessions of talking it out, rather than going in militarily. Now, I don't know if that was there's no discussion about if that was done or not. But so in that respect, I think diplomacy has a great place in this world, rather than go in. Adolf Hitler didn't want any part of that. He just wanted to eradicate. The
Yes, and if
Jewish
Steve
people.
were here, he would be the very one to say that traditionally Hitler has been nicknamed the Amalek of our time. And you are correct. Putin runs a close second. So
I
yes,
think, yeah, there's other that I can't think of at the moment, but I'm sure there are other observations of this. But that's what I was just trying to generally get at.
all right. Well, I know Steve mentioned that, about tests and everything, and some of his opinion about life being a series of going down a bumpy highway. Yes. And there's more to it. And we're going to be coming up with other tests, if you will.
Are there
as we
times
read
that
on.
are there times that we actually test God?
Oh, almost every second. There's yes, definitely. You say, "Oh my goodness, what did I do?" but I think he wants us to come to a better understanding of ourselves, so that we are less apt to reenact Cain's question to God, "Am I my brother's keeper?" How many times does he have to be tested? So yes, we are testing him all the time. Anyway, any other comments? We're going to end at this point. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, we do it in prayer. We actually do
Yes.
that in prayer.
Yes, but we have to think of it in all of our actions at all times. That is also the prayers at Yom Kippur.
Well,
And
are we worthy of praying to God? That's it.
That's another issue. That exactly. Good point. Very good points. Like that. Any other comments about our reading today and where we are? Because this is where we're going to end. So for today, and Ruth Ann, if you have any business points of interest.
Well, just a couple, okay? I don't know if anybody else knows, but Les Bakke had a heart attack last Saturday. He had quadruple heart bypass yesterday. As far as I know, he's recuperating just fine. Haven't heard anything on the contrary. But he is our editor, and he is the one who edits all our Zooms and puts them out on the temple's website. Now, I will be downloading everything that's on Zoom, but I don't know how. I don't have the software to edit, and I don't have the ability to put it out on the website. So if anybody wants anything that has been on Zoom since last Saturday, just let me know and I will gladly send you the link directly. Okay. And as far as like what Helene was talking about, the end of June, I think it's the 4th Thursday in June, Rabbi is going to do a talk. It might end up being a series of talks, and it's going to be very much Green Valley centered or Tucson centered, actually, the whole this area. What to do if somebody dies, who do you contact, what do you need to do, all this kind of stuff. And that will be on Zoom. Let's see, Wednesday, David has his stargazing. David,
yes.
I will call you in the next day or two. I need those specifics that was in my email so I can get everything set up before you get there. There's nothing quite like getting it set up when everybody's there. It makes it very difficult.
Got it.
Okay, so, I need to know, are you bringing a computer? Do you need a computer? All this, how much space? but you can email me all that. But
Perhaps
that's
you did not get my email that I already have sent, but we can talk about that.
okay. No, I got an email that just said you'll be there on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I sent another one with the information. I will have my own laptop.
Okay, well, I have to find, I didn't see that email, so maybe it's in my junk, which I don't check all the time on all of my email addresses. But that's Wednesday, and then next Saturday, we will be celebrating being given the 10 Commandments with Shavuos next Saturday at 7 o'clock at the temple, and we will have cheesecake. No blintzes, but cheesecake. Blintzes are in my freezer, and blintzes are way too time consuming for me to make. I only make stuff that's easy for the temple.
There you go.
David?
Ruth Ann?
Yeah.
Les and Bev were on their way north to Wisconsin. Did this happen on the way?
Kind of. He had arm pains. He was not feeling well last Saturday. Okay. But he was also lifting kitty litter and, lots of heavy stuff. And that's what he was saying, that he thought he just pulled a muscle in his left arm. Okay. Then never thought it was his heart. And they were on their way out. They were going up to back to Minnesota. They were 15 miles outside of Tucson, and the motorhome overheated. So they turned around. They had to get their loaner car back because they had dropped it off. They got the loaner car back. They brought the motorhome back to their house here in Green Valley. He unloaded the kitty litter that he had just loaded. Okay. And so again, he's thinking, it's just my arm. I pulled a muscle. Sunday morning when he got up and he wasn't feeling any better, Les drove him up to the VA. The doctor at the VA told him that most people who had his symptoms that go to bed at night don't wake up the next morning.
That's right.
But they're back in Green Valley, or are they up north?
They're in Green Valley. She's in Green Valley. He's at St. Mary's.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
David?
you. I know Michael and David want to say
I
things.
have a
Go ahead.
couple of announcements. One is very important. Firstly, Michael, if you could give me a call after, I'd appreciate it.
What?
The second thing, if you could give me a phone call after we're done today, I would appreciate that. The
Give
other
me-
thing,
Can I get your phone number now?
yeah, 520,
Just a minute.
all right,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
520-419-3673.
36 what?
73.
Okay, 73. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I've given the number to all of you. The other
That's
announcement is really pretty important. On Monday night, Memorial Day, at 10 o'clock, our planet is going to be plowing through the debris of a broken up comet. And we know the time, it'll be around 10 o'clock. And two possible things may happen that night. One is nothing. We may see a meteor, a shooting star or two, or we could see hundreds of thousands of them. And I'm hoping that all of you will just go outside in front of your house around at 10 o'clock on Monday night and look up. Because if this happens, if it happens the way I hope it'll happen, it'll be one for the ages. And then
Wow.
I'll see you at the observing session.
This historically, there have been ups and downs in the numbers of medias. That's why David said that. But it could be very exciting to see something like that. So bring an umbrella to protect yourself from the meteor shower.
Do we know the name of the comet that
Yes,
was broken?
the comet's name is Swashman-Wachman 3. You say that 3 times fast. Or if you don't want to call it that, you can call it Sony Walkman 3.
Okay, Washman, what?
Swashman
Swashman. Oh, Swashman Walkman. How,
Right.
where did they ever come up with a name like that?
People who were friends, and they discovered it in the 1930s. In
Yeah.
1995, the comet suddenly broke apart, became very bright for a while. And on Monday night, the Earth is going to simply plow through that area. And
Okay.
we'll see what happens, but we should be out there to see it. Wendy and I certainly will.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Michael has had his hand up too.
In regards to Helene, this discussion, I